We are going live again on a Thursday night. Going to be talking some fishing. And hopefully, if all goes well here, I'm going to have a guest on. I'm going to turn this light up just a little bit here. There we go. Yeah, if all goes well, I'm going to have a guest that I haven't had on here yet for you guys tonight. Hey, Dalton. Hey, Tom. Trout Bum. Bunch of guys joining. Awesome. I am live on YouTube again tonight. And kind of for you guys just joining who don't know, I've been streaming to YouTube and Instagram. But we're going to talk some ice fishing. I've been on the ice here a couple times, and I'm sure Jarrid's been on the ice. And it's gotten to be pretty dang good out there from what I've heard. And also in my experience so far, it's been pretty good. So we're going to hit it tomorrow morning. Hey, Matt Evans, how's it going? Kyle, I got Jarrid Houston coming on tonight, as long as all goes according to plan. So you guys stay tuned. If you guys know anything about Jarrid Houston, he's pretty fun to talk to. He's a guide up on mainly on the St. Louis River, Duluth Superior area, and he does a lot of ice fishing up there. So he'll be coming on with me here shortly. But in the meantime, how have you guys been doing? You been catching any fish? You been out fishing yet? Still hunting? I know there's some muzzleloader seasons going on. There's some bow seasons going on. I think they're having like a rifle hunt too. That might be next week. But let me know what you're up to. Let me know if you've been catching fish. I have been out 3 times now, and not for super long period of time, but I did pretty well out there both times, or all 3 times. So it's been pretty good. Lots of aggressive fish. That's the one thing I've noticed, that every time I've been finding fish, they've been extremely hot. Like, it was really tough last year, this time of year. We were not getting a lot of aggressive fish, and for some reason this year it's totally different. I mean, they are absolutely fired up. So pretty cool stuff. I like it when they're really hammering. Tom, you've been crushing bass with the clam flutter spoon? Yeah, I actually have too. I've caught some bass on the flutter spoon. I hadn't used it a lot until this year, but it's been working. Trout Bum's been slaying. Nice. Bruce Candello, not enough ice yet. No, you're further south than we are. Tony, you're heading out on Saturday. Sweet. Live in Minnesota Outdoors on YouTube said he's been chasing walleyes. I know they've been out on red. Quite a few people out on red. Water and ice, heading to red. What everybody tell me your favorite color on Red Lake. I bet you it's all going to be the same. What's your favorite color to use on Red Lake? Matt, you got out? Nice. Got some crappies. Yeah, I was fishing crappies on Monday, and they were just stinking. We got a red, we got a red, we got a red, a red and gold or orange. Yeah, exactly. Red and gold are the hot colors out there. And actually, I know Euro Tackle's thinking about making a red and gold bait color scheme just because of the popularity of red. Today, several resorts started allowing single axle wheelhouses out there. That's interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, that's pretty crazy because we don't have anywhere near that kind of ice here. But they're further north. They always get good ice. Pink's been pretty good too. Nice. Yeah, I've heard that that it just kind of depends on the day up there, but it's either red or gold or some form of red or gold is kind of the hot colors. And I don't do that good on red around here typically. My hot color is usually purple, some sort of purple or bluegill color. I do really well on any kind of bluegill color bait, typically, like a bluegill or a crappie or a natural like pumpkin seed looking. That's kind of my go-to in more clear water, and then I'll usually go to something purple or chartreuse and purple. Do I have confidence in rattle baits in northern Wisconsin? Yep, I sure do. I've caught so many fish on rattle baits in northern Wisconsin that it's probably been my number one bait the last 2 seasons, for everything, but especially largemouth. Like insane amounts of largemouth I've caught on the sea viber mainly, and lots of big crappies on rattle baits too. Yeah, Cold Nation, thanks for hopping on. Yes, the crappie bite has been really hot. Like not a lot of big fish, but man, have they been fired up. I mean, just they'll meet stuff halfway down. It's just insane. You'll just be dropping down and you'll see this vapor trail just come up and meet your bait. All right, guys, here's Jarrid. He's on. He will be on with me shortly here. So if we can get him up. There we go. Yeah, I try and avoid Red Lake too. It's kind of a...
Hi.
Hey, there he is. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys? How's everybody doing?
Good. We got a bunch of people on here right
Nice.
now. We got a few people on YouTube too. They can't see you, but they'll be able to hear you. So
Nice. A little dark in my room because we just got home. We had a little date night. You know, the wife and I went out for fish. We usually go for fish fry on Fridays, but obviously, you know, it's happening this weekend, so we can't be there tomorrow night. So.
yeah, we're gonna be busy.
That's right. We're gonna be real busy.
Jarrid and I are working.
Bear with me. I'm walking outside, but you guys can hang on.
Yep, no problem. Jarrid and I are.
Running in the garage.
Oh.
gotta keep your, you gotta keep your instruments fine-tuned.
Oh, fine-tuned is right.
Yeah. Plus, I feel. Hold on one second.
He's got that thing tuned right up, don't you?
I feel like if I run here's pest control 101. If you run your snowmobile smoke in your garage, it keeps the pests out.
Yeah, mice hate that.
No mice in my ice houses.
That's a good way to do it. It's like natural mothballs.
You got it.
Oh, that's funny.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, so for everybody listening or on the stream right now, Jarrid and I are both going to be at the Duluth Ice Show tomorrow, working for Clam, selling some shacks and some, odds and ends, suits, Clam Pro tackle, some of the new rods. We'll be working hand in hand with Marine General there. So if any of you guys are around, make sure you stop by and say hi. It'll be a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, I got Caleb knows this, but for anybody that's listening, I'm not used to doing live feeds and stuff. This is actually my first time ever doing a live thing on Instagram.
Yeah, I twisted his arm and got him to come on finally. He's great. He's great on camera. I mean, Jarrid's awesome on camera. If you guys have ever seen any videos like on the Clam stuff or Angling Buzz, so he's a natural. He'll catch right on. It's just like chatting in person.
You know this, and everybody that's probably watching this should know this too. Camera's really easy. All you gotta do is be yourself.
Yep.
That's all it takes. Just be yourself.
That's exactly what it is. That's all we do here. We just basically, I have guests on like you, and we just talk fishing, and then everybody just happens to be listening in and throwing their questions in. It's pretty low key. It's fun though.
Nice. There's my wife. She's being herself.
Yeah.
She's drinking a glass of wine. That's herself right there.
That's legit. Tom.
Everybody, but yeah, what's up?
Tom North Shore said he's going to be there around lunchtime, so I'm sure we'll see him there. That'll be fun. It's always fun to see people that you talk to on here all the time at the shows. So,
yeah, the show's great for the people that don't just want to come look at the ice fish and stuff. It's a good idea to bring your kids and your wives and whatever else. It's a great Christmas shopping opportunity. There's a lot of vendors, candles, vendors that sell, cookies. Last year I bought like gallons of pickles. My wife hates pickles, but there's lots of pickles down there usually. And there's just whatever. It's a full gamut of a bunch of different stuff.
Especially at the Duluth show. The Duluth show's got all kinds of stuff. Actually, my company's going to be there. They're going to be selling fireplaces at the show this year. So
great.
Yeah. But Tony Friend, he was at the clam booth at the ice show in St. Paul. I saw him there, and he said it was pretty busy. Yeah, Saturday especially was insane at that show. That was very busy.
Yeah, St. Paul's always a busy. I was just having dinner with Steve Slater from Slater Sales, and we both came to the conclusion it was about a nice year, nice as it could be. It was average. By the time the purple kicked off at noon on Sunday, I think it slowed down a little bit. The purple are 10-2.
Yeah, that's.
So if you want to watch the game.
If you're a Vikings fan, this is a good year for you. Not so much if you're a Green Bay fan like I am, but Tony said they spooled 600 reels at that show. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, good.
That's awesome. Great. Are they going to be spooling reels at this show too?
You know what? I've never seen them spooling reels at the show, but if you ask, I bet they would do it.
Yeah. Well, we can probably hook them up.
You bet. Yeah. Hooked up, right?
That's right. That's right. That's what I do. So, if you got a minute, Jarrid, just kind of fill us in on a little bit of background of how you ended up guiding in that area and like how long you've been doing it, when you got your captain license, all that stuff.
Make a very, very long story short, best I can. The year 2007, we relocated. I went to school at Bemidji State University. Went there for a master's in education. Left in a major in fishing. Does that make sense? Because they're in Minnesota, whatever.
That makes sense.
Right. And then bounced this way and ended up finding a nice little niche market. So in 2009, we picked up our guide credentials and started guiding. So it's been, 13 years now or whatever? It's hard to math. But us anglers are not good at math. I can tell you line depth and all those things, but when it comes to math and denominators, I'm out.
We don't get a lot of practice.
Yeah, not my deal. And then, and then got the captain's license. As a matter of fact, this weekend at the show, I got a couple of classmates of mine that'll be there. Justin Weezy owns Weezy Outdoors. They got up in Reamer, and him and his wife, Alice, and that was years ago. And, started doing the media side of things like Caleb's trickling into, which is great. We're super pumped to have him helping out with the buzzing and what you're doing with the social media, which is huge. Like I said, when I'm on this is the first time I've ever done like a live feed on Instagram, because I'm not TikTok or Snapwap or whatever you guys call those things these days. But I'm learning. I'm 40 years old, and I know it's the young crowd. I know it's a big deal when it comes to the marketing aspect of the fishing industry. But as far as the guiding business for me, we've been doing it since 2009, and we're right next to Amnicon State Park. We're 12 miles east of Superior. We cater to the Twin Ports, and we got a lot of nice connections and good friends and stuff. It's as Caleb is, and I appreciate you having me on, Caleb.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on and kind of talking fishing. So I'm sure you guys watching might have some questions for Jarrid on just the fishery possibly, and maybe kind of the fishery in that area. Jarrid's very in tune to what's going on in that whole basically delta of the St. Louis River and Lake Superior itself. So if you have any questions, fire away. And
fire away. I'm not going to give you all the answers, but I'll try. No,
yeah. Well, you got to keep some to yourself, right?
That's how Grandpa taught me, and that's how most of the senior, if my grandpa, he'd be rolling his grave if he saw what we were doing these days.
Oh, I know. That's just same with me. Like when I grew up, everything was a secret. Like even how you were catching the fish, what you were using. It's just so different now. Like information just flies all the time. It's just crazy. Yeah. But it's great if you're a new angler.
Yeah, you're right. There's a fast learning curve, right? But there's two sides to the story. It's everybody still has their hush milk runs they don't want to share with things, but at the end of the day, we all want to be promoting the sport, because what's important to keep the sport growing is, having people indulge in fishing. That's how it stays alive, and the industry and the business part of things, and then also the resources. Don't think for 1 minute that governments or states and stuff don't realize the amount of people that fish, and they have to adapt to that. The state of Minnesota, Wisconsin, for example, they got to stock lakes and stuff like that. Otherwise, people won't keep fishing. That's just the way it works.
Yep, and they do a good job. Both states do have good stocking programs, and there's always people who complain about the stocking program and they think they know better and whatnot, but in reality, both states do a pretty good job with their stocking programs.
Yep. So help me out, Caleb. So this guy at the bottom, Leo,
Yep. He's got a question. Is there a good walleye bite around the Twin Ports right now?
Yeah. We're just starting to trickle on some fresh ice. And like most lakes around the upper Midwest, there's a good walleye bite on most lakes that got walleyes right now. And for us in Duluth, north of Duluth, we have a bunch of reservoirs, starting with Fish Lake, builds on to Island Lake, builds on to Boulder Lake, Whiteface, heading north. All of them have a great walleye population. And starting with Fish Lake, speaking of DNR and in conjunction with what we're talking about right now, they've done a good job of starting to manage the walleyes there. And we got slot limits in that lake. And so that's a great opportunity to go out there and catch a nice walleye right now at Fish Lake. Highly recommend just going off of any of the public access. But I'm a big resort guy. I like to support the resorts. And there's good reason why you see successful resorts versus unsuccessful resorts is because the successful ones point anglers in the right direction. They'll put them on a good bite. But one at Fish Lake would be Tim Wagner of High Banks. So if you ever get a chance, I'd go to the High Banks Resort right there in Fish Lake, and he'll point you in the direction you're going to catch a few walleyes and opportunities for slot walleyes, which at the end of the day, you can't keep them because they're protected. But again, at the end of the day, that's the fun part for me about fishing is catching fish, not eating fish. So you might get a keeper or two, but I highly chase the protective lakes. I like to go catch Mille Lacs, for example. I hope this is my opinion, but I hope they always keep the limit the way it is right now because that lake is built for giant fish and for good reason.
As a sportsman who enjoys the sport more than anything, the best thing that can happen to a lot of lakes is tight limits and especially slot limits for fish like walleyes and pike. Like that's what we want to see, right? And lower limits on panfish, those 10 panfish lakes, I think those are going to succeed really well after a few years. Like they've done in Minnesota. If you want to continue to see the resource be good, that's really what it's going to take, because the fact is, like you said, the learning curve is so fast and there's so many people that can be catching fish easily within a year or two. They will know and be able to understand fish as well as we could in 15, 20 years. When you're talking like the 90s and 80s, like that's how fast it happens. So there's going to be a lot of what you would have considered experts out there, 20, 30 years ago in no time. And they're going to put pressure on the fish that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So I love to see those limits myself too.
Yep. I like, Fish Lake for another, as well, as long as it's in the conversation, they've just changed to a 5 panfish limit. So it's obviously the most sought after inland lake in the Twin Ports, as far as I'm concerned. And for good reason, it is a fertile habitat for sunfish and crappies alike. And for we moved here in 2007, and it's been 100% my wife's favorite lake to go to because it's been awesome pan fishing for as long as we've been here, until about 5-6 years ago, where it started to make an indentation of anglers chasing the same fish. So are adjusted, and now we're at a 5 limit panfish. So hopefully that's going to help. We're going to find out after this year, and hopefully it gets back to those big year classes that we want to do. So
nice, yeah. We're spoiled down here where I'm at. I mean, there's a panfish lake every 2 miles by me, but up there's not a whole lot of options for decent panfish. So it definitely sees more pressure, I suppose.
Yeah, there's exactly right there. Duluth Superior has got a big population of people, and down where you are is not that big of a population of people. We don't have, well, I shouldn't say that. We have a lot of water as far as acreage, but we don't have pothole lakes that are, scattered throughout, the
super
area.
Fertile. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's some, but it's not like if you go to where I went to college in Bemidji, where there's a lake every couple miles away.
Yep.
we got big body water. So the reservoirs I'm speaking about north of Duluth, they're all 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 acre waters, but that's really kind of it.
Right. So. Yep. Couple comments on YouTube here. Live in Minnesota Outdoors said fished Lake Superior out of Duluth for the first time this summer. Trolled for 2 minutes and caught a 28.5-inch walleye in 240 feet of water, that's out there. That's a really what you'd call pelagic fish, I think.
Yeah.
But that happens a lot out there.
Those fish are there. Tim Wagner, who owns Ibanks, his daughter caught a 32-incher 2 summers ago, which he's got mounted on his wall, and they're out there for sure. There's big walleyes, and they're because of the slot limit. I truly believe it helps grow the fish bigger, and with the responsibility of anglers these days and the importance that they're understanding now about letting big fish go. So
yeah, and I don't know if you would concur, but I would say from what I've seen with my own eyes, the walleye fishery in actual Lake Superior, in the west end of Lake Superior, has gotten better and better and better for the last probably 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, I think, Caleb, I'll argue a little bit about that because I know a lot about it, and
you know more than I do, so feel free.
I think the fishermen have gotten better.
Yeah,
not fish have always been there.
Sure, that could be. Yep.
We I started catching those fish back in 2009, and it was awesome. And it's kind of, maybe for me, it's trickled down a little bit.
Sure.
Because back then there wasn't as many people chasing those fish.
Yep.
But you're right with that. It's a solid population of fish. But watching the creel surveys, and my wife, for example, she went out and helped do this shocking this spring in the St. Louis, where those same population of fish run, and it's way below average as far as the shock numbers they got that weekend. But it's really kind of a touchy subject, because in the St. Louis River you can keep 2 walleyes. That's the rule. Right. At Lake Superior you can keep the state limit, which is 5, 1/20.
Yep.
At the end of the day, Caleb, those are the same population of fish, so we gotta work with that. And the amount of fishing pressure we've seen, and the increased fishing pressure over the last several years has kind of stomped on that a little bit. So I hope there's none of those my lake trout buddies watching, because the lake trout charters that are my friends go out there, and most of the time they catch a fish fishing for lake trout. That fish is going to die. You know what I mean? Usually a big fish, and they really have to boat it, because again, it's going to die, and that's no fault to them. But you're right in that it's a great fishery.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
It's still good,
and it's a magical place to catch fish. But it's at the end of the day, also it's kind of a gamble. I've had opportunities to bring. Well, here, full disclosure, I did a fishing show with Jason Mitchell out there 3 years ago. We never got to air that show because we caught a couple of nice fish. No doubt about it. I think we got 5 fish. They were 22 to 27 inches, but the fish never aired because we needed more fish than that. Yep. And that was on account of that particular day. There was just a lot of people out there trolling, doing the same thing, and what else. But you never know. It can be a gamble out there. And then I've got 100 up. So that's Lake Superior.
I mean,
that's Lake Superior.
Doesn't matter where you fish on Lake Superior. It's just the way it is. Ice fishing, open water, you can crush them, and it can crush you. It's 100%.
Want to slice a humble pie? That's the area of the world to go fish.
Yep. If you say you always catch fish on Lake Superior, you haven't fished it enough.
That's right.
Yep. So yeah, I will add to that. Yeah, I agree on the there is a really liberal limit on Lake Superior for walleyes, and it doesn't really make sense, because you're right, it's the same population that we're fishing in the harbor and in the river. What do you think there's any walleyes that basically only live in the lake all year round that just come up to spawn and then go right back out and they stay out there all winter? Or do you think almost all the fish winter inside the entries?
No, I truly believe that there's fish that are natural native Lake Superior walleyes.
Okay.
And they do this on the shorelines. And that population of fish is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that continues to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no evidence because I'm not a biologist and it's hard to science, just like it's hard to math.
Yep.
But from what I've seen and what I've experienced in the last, 15 odd years or whatever of fishing it pretty hard, is that you can kind of tell a difference too. There's a color thing with the fish.
Yep.
Versus Lake Superior. And make no mistake, there's 15-inch walleyes in Lake Superior. They don't come in the river.
I've caught them.
And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of river fish that never go to the lake either.
Yep.
But the biggest percentage of I think it's 90,000 or something around that is what the creel is at. The biggest percentage that do migrate interchangeable between both systems. And so when it comes to talking about the same population of fish, that's what we're keying in on right now, is that I wish that the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources would jive that into a common ground, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Rules versus lake rules.
Yeah.
And we out there yet, and clubs and things that I'm involved with, like our Twin Ports Walleye Association here in Duluth. We're trying tooth and nail to get that done, and we're still trying. So hopefully we get there and we're on our way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, they did it. They did it with steelhead. I mean,
they did steelhead, and places like the Rainy River where you
mm-hmm.
have the
right,
and stuff like that. So yeah, we're still working on it, but the accountability lies on us, the fishermen. Everybody watching, everybody paying attention to this feed right now. Is we need to be vocal about it and support that cause, and that's how things get done.
Yep, 100%. And I know you as well as a lot of guys are proponents of catch and release on big fish. And if I'm catching big Lake Superior walleyes and I'm not catching small ones, I'm just not bringing fish home. As long as they release safely, anything over 22 inches goes back. And if we're catching, even some days I'll throw a 22 back if we've got smaller fish to keep. So I think that's super important for the trophy fishery also, is releasing those big fish for sure.
Yeah. Science tells us that mature breeders are within that class you're talking about. So it's important to put those back. You bet.
We'll get back to the walleyes in a second. One question on YouTube: are the rivers on the North Shore productive for trout, like the gooseberry types of rivers? I can answer that question yes and no. It totally depends on timing. I mean, it just 100% depends on timing as far as what fish are in there and water levels. That's huge on the North Shore because you don't have much for spring water like you do on the South Shore rivers. They're not quite as even as far as flow, and you've got different spawns going on that rely on temperature. They rely on water, but there's also some populations of like resident brook trout that do stabilize pretty well in some of those streams. But it can be excellent, or again, it can really kick your butt too. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%. I would. I mean, just like Lake Superior, it's a slice of humble pie. Those tributaries, whether you're on the North Shore or on our side of the fence here in Wisconsin, heading down toward Ashland, all the streams can be hit or miss.
Yep.
Is the cliche in the fishing world, right?
Hit or miss, and a lot of times it's more miss than hit in those, unless you've got all the time in the world and you just go and you're there all the time and you got the temperature and where things are at and you're there when they're there and they're biting. It's just all timing.
I think that successful stream anglers have the demeanor and the mentality of a deer hunter.
Yep.
Patient. Everybody says patience. Well, stream fishing takes quite a bit of patience.
Yep.
And you go out there and you catch one fish, that's a real successful day.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And then once in a while, you just have one of those days where it's just like all the stars align and it's just fish after fish. And those days are worth the days that you get skunked, because that's just so fun when you get into them.
I'm a true believer in karma. And if you put in the effort and the time and you fail and you fail and fail, I promise you, if you keep trying, you're going to get it.
I've got a buddy I work with right now, and he was hardcore on mainly the brule. Like, he was just so dead set on catching his first lake run fish. He put 60 hours of fishing on the brule, never caught one lake run fish. And then one day he just figured it out, and he hooked like 7, landed 3. Then the next time out, he hooked like 12 and landed 4 or 5 of them. And he was just, all of a sudden, he put the time in, and it came back around, and he finally figured it out, and good for him. I don't think I could have done that. Spent 60 hours without a fish, without ever having fished the river before. I mean, that's sticking to it.
Well, we deer hunt, so
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like I said. If you're a good deer hunter, you're going to be a good stream fisherman.
Yep. Ray Tiffany says, hey, and he says there's no miss. That's where fish stories are born. True. Tom says, any burbot lakes you'd recommend around the Duluth area besides Lake Superior? I haven't tried anywhere else yet.
Yeah, the burbot lakes around Duluth and Superior are very limited. It's only going to be the Gitch. That's the population of burbot. The reservoirs, I suppose, there's no burbot in those, and you got to move over to western Minnesota, starting with Leech Lake, and the big walleye factories of northern Minnesota. Western Minnesota is where you're going to start getting them again. But Lake Superior, and Caleb knows a lot about catching the lawyers, and I do too. They do have a run on the St. Louis River as well as the streams, and select streams throughout the system, from Two Harbors all the way to Ashland and further out, even further than that.
Yep.
But the burbot population around our neck of the woods is really Lake Superior stuff.
I mean, there could be burbot in some other lakes, but not fishable populations. I mean, Lake Superior has thousands and thousands and thousands of burbot. I mean, it's got a lot of burbot in it, and it's the place to be if you want to catch burbot within 100 miles of that area. But there's a lot of challenges to it. Like, if you want to catch them through the ice, you got to go to safe ice, which is always a challenge to find on Lake Superior. And if you want to catch them on the river, you got to know where to go, and it's timing again. Like, it's very timing specific. It's not a big window a lot of times. And I've never hit that run very well myself. I know you've done it a few times, but
we've done it, and we've actually filmed some television stuff on it years ago, and just happened to be a bite, and it lasted like 2 days, and for whatever, one of those stars aligned situations where they were out there and we had the camera on it and it worked. But during that, it's a lot. It's very similar, like Rainy River in the springtime. I've missed that. I've never been able to hit the Rainy River in the springtime. I've been up there and I've came back with that slice of humble pie. But I hear the stories and whatever else. But what did I do next year? I tried again, and I tried again, and I tried again. I still haven't done it. I still have not hit a Rainy River spring thing since I was in college. It's been almost many years. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a timing thing. You're right about that.
Yeah, but when it happens, and it can be pretty fun. And Ashland area, Bayfield area, that's always got a consistent, lawyer bite as far as there's fish around, if you know where to look and how to fish them. Especially later in the ice season that you get towards March and stuff, it can be very solid over there. You're not going to put up, 50 fish, but having a dozen fish in a night, if you fish all night, it's not out of the question. And with burbot, it's probably not great to just catch 50 of them anyway, because they love to swallow the bait. They don't freeze well, and they're a limited resource just like everything else. So I prefer to catch 2 or 3, 4 nice ones, and that's plenty to eat for a couple meals. And I don't like to keep too many of those anyway. Some people think of them as trash fish, but they're really not at all.
Well, they've crossed the legal limit for the Minnesota government now, and there's a limit on them, right? I think it's 10, and that's for good reason, because their popularity is growing so much that we gotta keep those in check now too. So even though there's a ton of burbot, it's up to us. We're accountable for making sure your burbot sustains itself.
Right. I was going to ask you too. So I'm aware that just from a lot of buddies and stuff, there's a huge population of juvenile walleyes in the Brule this year, in the lower Brule. What do you make of that? Do you think that's like those lake fish, like a big year class that have just moved into the river for some reason, or where are those fish coming from, do you think?
That's a good question, Caleb. And I've been fishing the Brule for several years, and it's always been juvenile 14-inch, 13-inch walleyes. One time I got a 15 1/4 incher. I've been out there, and we've caught on the 4th of July at all times a year. One 4th of July went out there fishing, and I bet we caught 150 walleyes. It was 15 inches. So I don't know the answer to that as far as knowing the science behind it. I truly believe that's just the culture of that river when it comes to place, because some of the other streams, starting from Wisconsin toward Ashland, do get bigger fish and whatnot. Amnicon, Middle, Poplar, and then moving over to the west. To the east. There's a few rivers that are different, but I think each river has a different culture, kind of like the Brule River, right? The Brule River is a very culture-bitten fishery that probably is most popular for good reason, because it's got, a better opportunity to catch fish as opposed to its neighbor, which might be the Amnicon River.
Yeah.
Do the same thing up the Amnicon River? You bet they do. Do they bite as often? Maybe not, but they're there too. So it's tough to say. There might be bigger fish in the Brule River, bigger walleyes that come in there. I've never seen them for myself. I know that Amnicon River, for example, just throw that name out there. I know I've caught nice fish in the Amnicon River, but for the most part, I think it's just the culture of the river.
Yeah,
that's all with really.
And I did catch a 19-inch walleye in the Brule one time, but it was during the spring run. It was during the steelhead run before the walleye season opened, so I'm sure it was a spawning fish, and it ate a pink yarn fly. Believe it or not.
You'd be surprised, and as probably as much as most avid anglers, Caleb. I've caught a lot of walleyes fishing for bass. I mean, a lot.
Me too.
Years ago, I caught walleyes up the yin yang on tube jigs.
Tube
jigs. Out of all things, ripping tubes. It was fun as heck.
Yeah, I mean, I've caught walleyes on spinner baits. I've caught walleyes on. Well, last year we fished a river, and we caught two of them on topwaters. We caught two of them on just straight up. What were we using? Some kind of prop baits that we had. Caught two walleyes on topwater. I've caught them on rattle baits. I've caught them on Texas rigged worms. I've caught them on. I mean, just about anything you can throw at a bass, we've caught walleyes on. Not consistently, but
I have friends around the area, like customers of mine that have property that actually have their own ponds filled with fish, and walleyes included, crappies, bass, whatever else. I always ask them, and one of my customers of mine is Randy Stink. He says that the walleyes are the most ferocious predators out of the bunch, which is great. Which is I can agree with, because sometimes you can't be wrong. Whatever you use.
Yep. And I would say that's probably true when they're on, but they also are moodier than other fish. So they'll go up and down in extremes to like look at your bait and just nose it and won't even open their mouth, to they'll see it from 10 feet away and just come up and crank whatever's down there another day, the same fish. They
seem like they're a lot more moodier here as opposed to Canada. They're very not moody in Canada.
That is true. Some of the fisheries I've fished up there, I've caught them on musky bucktails. I mean, they're just eating everything. Yeah, it's totally different. But yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, and I've had some of my best walleye bites, down here in our Clear Lakes. Some of my best walleye bites last season and the season before were on a drop shot rig. Like just drop shot and walleyes is a killer technique in the summertime. And I don't always use live bait either. I'm talking like a 6-inch robo worm is one of my best walleye baits out there. It looks probably just like a leech, use dark colors, and I've caught dozens of nice walleyes on that rig. Put a crawler on it and it's even deadlier a lot of times, but that's a bass technique, that's just crosses over really well.
Yep, that's getting more popular, seeing bass techniques for walleye angling.
Yep, and I've caught a heck of a lot of walleyes on Ned rigs too. So fish perch out of Red Cliff this summer, kind of a cool change of pace. Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I've experienced it to some degree, but the perch population further out into Lake Superior, like out towards Bayfield and Red Cliff, has gotten better the last few years. There's more fish out that way, and pretty nice ones from what I've been seeing. So that's kind of a nice little bonus out that direction.
Yeah. I've been getting them too. They're not in numbers.
Nope.
And what you're talking about, but you do get them. If you get towards Ashland, of course, you can get into some good perch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be something if some of the perch I've caught, like single roamers or little packs of them. I mean, if you could get on a big school of fish like that, it would be pretty insane because they're big, like they're really big. But they usually don't tend to school up. Those big fish seem to be more loners, or they'll travel in a little pack of 2 or 3, and they'll just be random out there.
Yep.
But man, when you catch them, they are beautiful fish.
Yeah, I love perch so much. We're starting to see a few more big pot-bellied perch in the St. Louis River the last couple of years, which is great. Again, it's not a numbers thing. It's not like a Winnebagosh 90s fight, but it's getting better. The quality is the same, but the numbers are not the same. So we're on our way, and hopefully, if everything goes right, we'll see some of those here in the next few days. So.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. What's your take on how that fishery changed in the flood? I know that's a topic that a lot of people talk about. Just hearing the buzz around the area, how it used to be, before the big flood. And was it 2012?
Yeah, 2012. Yep.
Yeah.
For me, I love it. I love the fact that the flood happened, not because of the damage and all the things that happened to people's stuff, but I love the fact that we had everything figured out, right? Everybody was on a real dominant bite. They had their stuff and this and that. And it was really a matter of now we all have to start over.
Mm-hmm.
What sandbar was there yesterday is gone. Those logs are gone. That was gone. This is different. That's different. And everybody had to go out and pick a new milk run. And so since 2012, we're finally starting to see vegetative areas get back to where they were.
Okay.
New areas, new fertile, soft substrate weeds, whether they're tails or whatever they're going to be. But you're starting to see new areas that weren't there, prior to 2012. So everything changed. That's obviously cliche to talk about, but that's exactly what happened. And what happened in the angling communities, everybody had to stop and relearn the St. Louis River. And that was 2012. So that's 10 years ago. It's hard to believe that, right? So 10 years ago exactly, we had to deal with a lot of change. And now we're at a point where we've kind of adapted to what it's going to be and looking out for the future, what's happening, and just kind of prying and digging into keeping that success rate going. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to hear that they're starting to see some regrowth of some of the weed beds and stuff. Because
well, you can certainly tell on the shorelines, right? So a lot of the mudslides and stuff where the trees came down and the steep cliffs, especially when you get up towards like Water Street and Fond du Lac area, to the south of Boy Scout and all that, Pipe, Ely Peak and all that stuff. A lot of that was clay hills, and now you can finally start to see some grass, some real juvenile tree plants and stuff, and that's good for everything. We need that. I mean, that if that's happening up there, it's happening under the water too. So that's great.
Yeah, and we got a comment on YouTube that Terry said flood wiped out some good cabbage beds and that haven't come back as well, which I'm sure everything changed so much that all those areas that had that nice sediment, a lot of it got washed out, and when that's gone, the weeds are gone. So,
Yep.
but
I can't think of one system in the United States right now that's changing more than the St. Louis River, starting in 2012 with the flood. But even since then, in the last 10 years, Caleb, as recent as this summer, we're seeing a giant development of you got all the cleanup efforts, right?
Yep.
So we're still doing all that super site, steel plants, paint plants, lumber plants. They're taking all that material that's been in there for a long time and cleaning it up. And I know it's kind of a, take a back seat right now, but that's going to be all for the better. They're making that habitat better for fishing, for wildlife. And we think about fishing, we're anglers, but
yep.
for waterfall and just everything in the ecosystem. And so we live in an estuary, which is what that estuary is, an ecosystem. So it's all for the best. And, if I could fast forward 10 years from now, it's exciting. So in the year 2032, it's going to be exciting what the St. Louis River looks like. It really will be. Right now,
yeah.
Turn up and all the things, and some days can be challenging out there and this and that. But in the 10 years from now, I think it's going to be all for the better. I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to look.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of the biggest estuaries in the Great Lakes. So it's got a lot of potential, and
the biggest.
It is the biggest.
It's the biggest one.
Yeah, I thought it might be. And that's a natural resource you really want to put some effort into making as good as it can be. And like you said, I think 10, 15, 20 years from now, the fishing in there and just everything there could be pretty incredible.
Yep.
One more question for you. Have you noticed or have you seen any increase in the amount of trout salmonid species running into the St. Louis in the last few years?
Yeah, coincidentally, we've heard stories. I have not. When I first moved here in 2007, I caught a king salmon, right? Fishing for walleyes.
Oh, really?
Out of all things, it was in 32 feet of water in the shipping channel.
No kidding.
In the harbor. And it was on a jig and a leech, a quarter-ounce whitehead jig and a leech. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still learning the river. And I happened to catch a rogue king salmon. It was 27 inches. It was super awesome.
Oh, that is cool.
That was the only personal experience I ever had. But since then, and being real intimate conversations with my good friends at Marine General, every year we hear of a brown trout and or a lake trout cod, especially through the ice season on the St. Louis River. And hopefully, and I don't know why it is, if you go to Milwaukee and see all the shallow bays and those harbors, like I thought Parker's Island. I wish Parker's Island had a population of brown trout that was kind of like what we see over in Ashland.
Oh, that would be so awesome, wouldn't it?
It would be super awesome. I don't know why we're not there yet, but hopefully, I knock on wood all the time, cross my fingers. Hopefully that happens someday. But to answer the question, it's the river, for whatever reason, I feel like it's got some sediment that the fish don't want to adapt to, so they kind of stick away from it. And when you get them in there, I think it's really rogue. It's kind of we're fishermen, so we talk about that luck factor all the time. I think you're very lucky to catch trout or salmon in the St. Louis River, even though the Minnesota Trout Association people say that some of those rivers got trout in them that flow into the St. Louis River. The Red River up by Boy Scout is a trout river. I'd give you $100 tomorrow if you can go out there and catch a fish. I'll give you more than that. But the point is, it's tough. It's tough to catch trout in the St. River. I wouldn't bank on it by any means, but hopefully someday we can see some more. I really would love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think like Live in Minnesota Outdoors just mentioned that, I agree with them. If they did stock browns in the harbor, they would come back. I 100% believe that if they were stocking them inside, they would be back because that's what they do.
They got a $17 billion surplus in their economic or in their money right now. Minnesota should spend some money in the resources and put some trout in their river. That'd be sweet. Yeah,
I would like to see that too. And I think browns especially would be the species that would take off in that environment because they can handle that more turbidity, warmer water. that's the one that's going to really take off. And it is surprising that there isn't some sort of spawning run in the St. Louis of trout and salmon in the spring. But like you said, it might just be too turbid for it to be attractive to them in the springtime.
Who knows? Again, we're not scientists, but it could be on account of all the pollution over the last 100 years that are in the river. There's something there that I can't pick up on as a human, but fish can pick up on, and they're like, I don't want nothing to do with that. So that's why they don't come. Who knows?
Yeah, and trout are super susceptible to that, obviously, because they have extreme olfactory senses. They can probably smell that pollution.
Yeah.
And maybe, like you said, when they clean it up.
They go up like the Brule River, because the Brule River is very clean, oxygenated water, right? So,
mm-hmm. Yep. Well, good. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up, but
yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on, Jarrid. It's been good chatting, and
this is awesome.
We'll be
for listening and stuff. That's cool. I didn't know this was a thing. This is the first time. I'm not really good at technology. I'm Jarrid, technology dumb.
Well, you did great. And we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see some of you other guys tomorrow at the show in Duluth at the deck. Starts at noon, goes till 8. So come down and say hi.
Yep, come down. All right, Caleb. I'll talk to you later. Everybody have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.